actually recorded a vlog in September, and for whatever reason I didn't upload it, so I might do that with uploading this one. I may just do them both. And in that vlog I talked a little bit about sort of being diagnosed with autism, and I think maybe I touched upon long COVID and so I will say things have definitely gotten more intense over the months. I think since it's really hard to sometimes frame and get perspective, but maybe for a long while there's been a process of not being able to mask autistic symptoms, or knowing I was doing that in the first place. So I think as my sort of mental health has been getting more severe, it's been really hard to do certain things, like engage in social interactions, or doing sort of tasks, and being able to get outside. It's been a huge one. Sometimes even like I've needed groceries or something, and or it's a combination of just brain fog and anxiety, maybe sensory stuff of just not having the energy to encounter people, even to pass them by, just the movement and the daylight just kind of stopped me from sort of going outside. So there's been a general sort of increased limitation to how things have gone, and like more space between seeing people, and I guess not being able to really engage with life. That's kind of how I've phrased it in my mind, that it's only in the last few weeks I've just put in a really conscious effort to sort of try and engage in life, and like see people and have more sort of communications and connections with people. And today I thought I'd do some creative stuff, so I recorded a video or a podcast episode for my other channel. I don't often link the two together. I think maybe I'm a bit self-conscious about doing this, or because they're so different, and when I record the sort of spiritual podcast stuff, I'm usually in a very present state of mind, so I'm in almost like a meditative state. So perhaps I'm talking a little bit slower or softer, or and it's all just very immersive. I want to talk from that space, so I kind of have to get myself there in order to be able to speak from that place and kind of share what I want to. So maybe I'll have some mindfulness just to sort of invite that sort of space, even recording these vlogs. And just before recording, I was just a bit anxious. I was thinking, oh, what am I going to talk about? Am I going to make sense? I know I'm going to find it really hard to share what I want to share. Like in my head, it can feel sometimes a lot clearer than when it comes out and I verbalize it. Then there was a helpful thought, just said, oh, just sort of enjoy it, have fun, but be free with it, and it can be more enjoyable that way. If it's just I've tried and designed this as almost like a little captain's log, like I'm on my own ship and I'm just sort of just recording a diary sort of thing. So it makes it a lot more enjoyable than if I'm like creating content and there's an audience and I've got to do an introduction and I've got to do an outro and I've got to say promotional YouTube things. So I try and, maybe personally for me, it's just simply an outlet, I guess, some sort of outlet for even down to the name of the channel. It was just trying to describe accurately what I'm doing here, and it's just, yeah. And it felt maybe having it online, or it just felt like it's productive maybe in some way. It just felt, I think sometimes I do like an audio journal, and yeah, it just feels a bit of a different energy when it just maybe listened to, and it's almost like a counselling session in some way, where you can sort of be relaxed and free, but there's a part of you that wants to sort of try and be clear and try and engage and make it useful, and sometimes when I do an audio journal, I sound literally like half dead a little bit when I'm recording. My voice is just like, there's less filtered, so sometimes it's a difficult energy to engage in when I hear myself, or when I'm actually recording the journal, and I won't speak as clearly as I am now, probably because I'm making a bit more of an effort, or a lot of effort to do so, but maybe it feels like a healthy sort of engagement to do. Hopefully it won't feel too draining. I kind of wanted to cover stuff about PIP. In the past I've talked a little bit about universal credit, and I think people resonated with that when I shared just my struggles and difficulty, and I thought, I'm sure lots of people are, if they listen to like mental health stuff like this, if they're going through that same process, and yeah, so I think, overall PIP was like, I submitted my application form maybe a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week or two ago, and it was such an enduring process for me. Psychologically, it was just huge. Like, it just really disabled me while doing it, and I initially had the plan to get help with filling the form out. There were some charities I was aware of that I could contact, and one of their services is to help people through the PIP process, and I think maybe they help at different stages as well, like if you've got a mandatory reconsideration or anything in that area, and so I was asking for just some help with filling out the form, because I knew it would just be overwhelming, to say the least, and it would just there'd be a price to pay for me to try and do it, even with help. And unfortunately, I think the charities, and it's partly to do with my own circumstances, because I'm getting universal credit, is that they were just overstretched. A lot of the time there just wasn't a capacity to get help. So I did get some other help from a mental health professional who kindly helped a little bit and gave me some, I think they checked my form and just kind of emphasized about evidence, and during the PIP process I must have given up on it several times and thought, I'm just gonna have to manage with what I'm getting at the moment, and my kind of I've been putting it off for years, actually, applying for PIP, and because now I'm really aware that a bigger space, living space, would be really healthy for me to have, and perhaps I think family have often been worried or said to me that, being where I am in the, and it's just way too confined and I've been there for more than several years, so it can really add up and take its own toll, and unless you go through that experience of living there for that amount of time, it's probably hard to imagine. So even people on the outside who haven't been through that experience but know that I am, are kind of saying to me, hey, it's not healthy for you to sort of be there long term. So that's been useful to push me to try and, even though like renting and stuff is so triggering, like the expense and the competitiveness and that sort of supply and demand, where like every place is just so many people applying, and it's probably accurate to say that I'm probably in a list of people of applicants, I'm quite far down compared to somebody who's, you know, if there's a person or a couple working full time, and I'm sure that's seen as more security. So yeah, it's been a bit of a bumpy ride so far. I'm getting help with family, with viewings and things like that. So, and yeah, and I won't be able to afford it, or it would be, yeah, I'll have to like alter my life in regards to how other things I'm paying for to afford it. So yeah, PIP is definitely needed for, and to help with other things as well. Yeah, it's really hard to word just how difficult it is, or it was for me. Like each time I opened the form, like my mind just literally, I could feel it just fall apart or just become completely blocked. And it was just almost felt, yeah, it just felt very distressing each time I sort of trying to go in there and had to. With me, I'm dealing with long COVID, so there's increased sort of brain fog, which is intensified, and it's just so hard to kind of strain the mind while that's happening. And I've got sort of past, if I can use the word trauma, in regards to explaining myself and going through like trying to get help and trying to speak up, and all of the times I just wasn't able to put words to things, and times, yeah, especially in previous health assessments and stuff to do with benefits, that I wasn't able to speak up, and I wasn't seen or heard. And so it's almost like it feels very suffocating when I'm trying to put words to things. It just, yeah, it's just too overloading, and there isn't enough space to, almost like there's a bottleneck, so there isn't enough space for things to flow out, and when I'm writing stuff down and trying to explain. And I'm aware with PIP there's such a higher level of scrutiny in regards to their, can't think of the word, their criteria, I guess. So there's kind of an energy with it that it's not, doesn't feel like it's given in a sense to help. It is, but you've got to sort of reach their high watermark in regards to, which is just how it is at the moment with that particular benefit. So for example, like if certain words are not used, or it's almost, it feels quite inhuman in that way, where they're not sort of there to reach across to help you. It's more like you've got to fight to kind of climb over this big wall, and to see if you climb over it correctly, perhaps. I don't know if that's a good metaphor or not. And so you've got to climb over it in the exact way they want you to, or to see how you fit into certain things. And yeah, it's just so difficult to be clear on difficult days, or give them sort of good days and bad days, and to emphasize how difficult bad days are. And it seems to be like it just took on a huge like psychological process where, for example, one of the things I've struggled with is cooking, and so I've been sort of doing my best to, like, a lot of times I've just been having like cereal and toast in the evenings on certain days or certain periods, or like I've tried to kind of have something healthy like some soup that I can warm up that's already like pre-made, and but yeah, just to put words to things, and it makes perfect sense, because I was telling a friend this, like the instrument used to sort of explain if that's having trouble, it's like having almost a damaged pen and you're trying to write with it, and it's naturally going to be very sort of difficult, and so it almost feels a bit, if I'm being over dramatic, but like torture almost, that I'm trying to explain, but in the explaining there's a huge like trigger of I feel suffocated, it just strangles the mind, it taxes the mind so much, and then it just sends the mind into free fall and a spiral, and there's so much sort of mental pain there as well. And so each sort of time I approached PIP, it was almost like having to go through that distress and that thing each time as I did it, and then when I come out of it or finish a little bit of it and I can try and recover and soothe whatever kind of distress took place, and then if more than like several days go by, it's harder to go back to, like I lose track of the momentum or the framework and that rhythm of trying to how to explain things. And it's kind of like when you're writing a big essay, I guess, and there's a bit of a gap and you go back to it, it just takes, naturally it will take a moment to dial in to what you've written and to get the thread and to make sure what you're saying now ties in with other things you said before, and you're giving like a balance, sort of, you're not repeating yourself. And so when I would return to the form, it would just be like, what did I say previously? And even if I'd try and read it, that's another kind of thing I've been struggling with, like just the mind wouldn't be able to process what I was reading. It would just, like I was read 4 things, I think, okay, these are the 4 things, and then it would just really struggle with that. I'm just seeing on my tripod that the stand is slanted. I'm hoping my phone is straight at least. Not that it matters much anyway, but it's something I've just noticed. What else do I want to say, I guess? I'm wondering if I should make another doctor's appointment. I've been sort of checking in with them every now and again in regards to the long COVID. It feels good to do, and hopefully it's okay to do that, because there's nothing they can do more, and I think with long COVID there's still like nothing really known about it as far as I'm aware. It's like be useful to see if there's some sort of group of other people dealing with long COVID and things that may work for them, or if there's articles or research that people will post and they're aware of. So I wonder if there's like a message board or some kind of group. I wonder if that would be helpful. So I do feel quite, I guess, isolated in the dark, like the doctors don't know anything about long COVID, understandably. And when I spoke to a long COVID team, when they sort of said, this is what we think you have, they said there's no sort of treatment for it. The best you can do is kind of treat it as what people have of chronic fatigue and MS, and just try and do exercise, try and do things that support your physical health, like nutrition as well. So there's not too much. I've been trying to do that as best as I can, like even just some stretches in the morning. I haven't done I've been really struggling to do yoga. Sometimes I do some yoga postures, just like 2 minutes of just free flow if I can. But with the space I have, there isn't space for me to do that where I'm staying, where I'm living. So I have to kind of move some furniture out of the way, and right now that's just being a block to do that. It's just my energy has been so mental and physical. It's been so difficult as of late. So as much as my intention is to sort of give myself that motivation, say, come on, let's just try and do that, it just doesn't seem to be happening. So that I've just been accepting that, and yeah, just sort of making the most of what I can do in the moment, I guess. Like reading is something I went for a phase maybe some months back where I was doing really well with reading fiction books. Like non-fiction I was still struggling with to process and understand, but some fiction books I was able to read, and it just became a good focus for my day to try and dip in and out of the book throughout the day. And now for the last, I don't know if it's the last couple of months or more, like reading's just been extremely difficult. I've done very little reading. I've got like a book I got from the library, and I just couldn't get interested or connected to it. And I think with the discomfort of reading, it probably didn't help as well. So I'm just trying to be patient to see if some energy comes back for that, even if it's in really short bursts, and I can just sort of so yeah, going back to engaging with life, that's just been maybe the last few months or a couple of months where I've just withdrawn more and more, and it got to a stage where it just felt like if I keep on withdrawing, like I'm not sure if I can come back from that, or it just feels scary going deeper into that place, where naturally other things shut down, and you also want to see people less and less, and just become more within yourself, and it just didn't feel healthy. And there is even a time I thought maybe counselling won't help, and in one of my sessions maybe a few weeks ago I was just like, yeah, perhaps I don't know if I can still do counselling. It just felt everything was just sort of closing in on itself, and I was kind of giving up in some ways, thinking, counselling was hard for me anyway, just to try and like explain and pull up stuff, and it takes a huge effort. And with the autistic stuff, like I can sense a dizziness now in me as I talk, so, and I would try and slow myself down. And one thing I'm doing, which I'm doing now, is I close my eyes to help with just to calm my senses and get a little bit of extra oxygen, I guess, to recover. Sort of sensory oxygen, but so maybe I can feel myself sort of rambling a bit now and talking fast and losing my awareness, so it might be a good time to wrap this up. And my brain feels quite fuzzy. Like I know I've spoken about certain things, but in regards to details, I can't really remember what I've just sort of gone through in some ways. So yeah, I think just as I sort of wrap this up, I just need to be really patient with myself and really acknowledge the difficulties that I'm dealing with. It's just all too easy to, I think I said this in September, perhaps, to be hard on yourself, to really dismiss things, to think, sometimes at my worst I'm like, come on, get yourself together, and it's just such a misguided cold sort of voice that is, because it's almost trying to say shake off, these health conditions and things, and like almost sometimes like I feel like I'm not faking it, but I'm making too much of things sometimes, and it's really hard to know if that's true. Like it feels completely delusional to say that, because I feel, I can just see it in myself and my behaviours. There isn't the case, but sometimes it's just easy to be really self-critical and thinking I should be doing more, and like even after recording this, it's good to just let that settle and acknowledge like being creative today. Like I did a bit of writing this morning it started, I can't remember when now, it might have been like the end of last year, or I don't know if it's start of this year, but so I'm like maybe a third of the way through this novel, and it was really, it was really good to just open that up again. I felt, even though I can only do like 10 minutes of just sort of trying to get dialed into the story, but so I just wrote a few sentences, but there was a moment of good feeling before feeling a bit tired, that it felt nice to sort of try and stimulate the mind creatively, and before this I've recorded an episode from my podcast, and now I'm doing this, so it's good to acknowledge, and I'm going to try to not think ahead, to think, okay, I need to hold on to this now, I need to get back into that recording flow and do this each week as I used to do. I think that voice would always probably be there a little bit, just my ambition and creativity and wanting to be productive, but hopefully there's another energy that can soothe that a little bit and think, okay, perhaps it's nice to have that direction, that purpose and focus to structure, to do more writing or to do more recording, but also with how my health is, it can be, I need to be cautious about that too, because like it's evident for the last however long I haven't recorded, 6-7 months or maybe longer, that things are quite difficult, and I can get sort of burned out very quickly, and so I'm going to try and just see how this feels, just go with the flow of each day, and see if there's enough energy to do any more recordings or not, but I can just enjoy what I've done today. I think that's a good approach to it. Just acknowledge and enjoy what I've recorded and take things from there. But I'm kind of happy I was able to just post another recording, and and I'll see if anything else comes in the future.